2019 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop Meeting. Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance by saying, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time open up the floor to public comments. And hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3, and I'll call Commissioner DeFilippo to present Nancy Snyder with an award for 25 years of service to Cumberland County. Nancy and Travis, please come forward.
I usually see you behind glass.
We are celebrating Nancy's 25 years of service with the county. She was hired in March 1990, part-time as a commissary clerk at the prison. In 1994, she was promoted, became full-time as a department clerk too at the prison. Nancy, we'd like to present this to you for your 25 years of service. And I'm sure working at the prison has been an interesting experience.
Yes, very much so.
Feel free to say anything, and Travis, you as well.
She's a very dedicated and loyal employee, and I'm just glad she's on my team, and she's like my personal little traffic cop. She gets everything directed where it needs to be, and just glad that she's on my team. We appreciate her.
Congratulations.
Case on plates. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, next, Commissioner DeFilippo will present a proclamation recognizing the Conservation District Week beginning May 5th through 11th. Carl?
I know you don't recognize me as a child. Stunned silence.
All right, we have a proclamation in recognition of Conservation District Week. Whereas conservation districts are local units of government established under state law to carry our natural resource management programs. Whereas conservation districts work with landowners and local governments to help them manage and protect land and water resources on private and public lands. And whereas districts are each led by a volunteer board of directors, which includes farmers, public members, and a member of county government. The board identifies local conservation needs, decides which programs and services to offer, and develops a strategic plan. And now therefore, the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners commends the great work accomplished by Pennsylvania's 66 conservation districts, and hereby proclaims the week of May 5 through 11 as Conservation District Week in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, presented the second day of May from the Cumberland County Commissioner. Carl, here you go. Any words?
Yeah, I'd just like to say on behalf of the district staff and directors, we appreciate the commissioner's support over the years, and we have a lot of good activities here this spring. We had the tree sale last week. We had 300 customers, about 8,000 seedlings. Next week we have an environmental event where all non-public schools in Cumberland County will be participating in the Envirothon. And later in May we'll be meeting with legislators to talk about our programs and some of the legislation as we've been going back and forth, the emails that are affecting us. So we'll be meeting with those legislators later this month. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl. Question. 66 conservation districts, 67 counties.
Right. Philadelphia. Philadelphia's the only one that doesn't, yep.
And
Yep.
okay, we have a picture.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Make sure it's not upside down.
yeah.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Carl.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5, committee members here to discuss the 2019-2020 preliminary fiscal budget. Tammy?
Yes, Finance has requested to lay the 2019-2020 fiscal budget on view. This budget was developed based on estimates because we don't have all the state allocations at this time to do the budget. Budget's a total revenue budget of $109,324,793. The expenses is $109,338,615. Grant revenue from the fiscal budgets make up 89.21% of the total revenue.
Anyone have any questions for Tammy? Thank you, Tammy. Next, we'll move on to agenda item 6, contract and grants. And I'll begin with Roman numeral 6.1, which are existing contracts, contract extensions, and addendum with no additional cost or increase to the county. They include the following departments. There are 8 contracts for aging and community services, 1 contract for children and youth services, 1 contract for district attorney forensic lab, and 1 contract for GIS. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of the above-mentioned agreements?
No.
No? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants, and contracts with increases and decreases to the county. And I'll begin by calling on Jamie to discuss the agreement for children and youth. Jamie?
Commissioners, this is our 18-19 contract for Families United Network. They provide both group home services and foster care services for us. They are comparable to other like programs and are below the state maximum approved amounts.
Any questions for Jamie? Thank you, Jamie. Agenda item B, I'll call on Michelle Cyber to discuss the agreement for the district attorney's office. Michelle?
Good morning, Commissioners. I apologize, if you have questions, I will probably have to follow up with an email, because I don't know this contract. I just talked to Eric a few minutes ago. I know he told me this contract is for our lab. In order for it to be accredited for latent fingerprinting, we must have an outside vendor come in and do the certification. This cost is, he told me, to the general fund. It's not grant funded.
Commissioners, any questions that we need to follow up with Eric on?
And I'll be happy to do that.
Is this an anticipated expense, is the budget approved? Because I don't think I got this.
I don't know if it was, but probably not unless she's maybe
I don't know.
So, 24,000. So we're doing the certification, and we thought the certification in the budget. Let's get a little more information.
Okay. So you want me to answer, was it budgeted? Did we foresee it?
Yeah.
What is it again, Michelle?
We have to have an outside vendor come in to verify the latent fingerprints. If we have a forensic person who does the fingerprinting, but I guess she can't calibrate.
Can't watch your homework.
Was the budget, was it foreseen?
$24,000 for that.
And I don't know what the
I guess I'd like to know.
competition was in terms of what, did we look at other vending or other services?
Did they provide a proposal, or was it as a professional service not bid? Or I'd like to know what they submitted that told us that what we're getting for that and why that's a good price. Such,
Yeah, we have nothing on this.
Okay.
Don't expect you to answer those questions.
No, I will have an answer. He said PCCD, so I'll touch.
All right.
Okay.
Touch on this.
So whenever you send that email to him, he'll copy me, and then if I have any additional questions, then I'll answer.
Okay, just you? Okay,
And then I'll make sure the commissioners get it. Okay.
thank you. And anything
Michelle,
else?
thank you for coming up.
The only other question, Michelle, I have is just, again, you said that we have to have an outside firm do this. Why? I mean,
That's, I think, to be accredited in this area, we just can't do it ourselves.
okay, so there's an issue relative to certification or accreditation or?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
That's not unusual.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sure.
Agenda item C, Ryan is here to discuss the agreements for drug and alcohol, followed by agenda item 8, which we're running down below the contracts and grants regarding a donation of Cumberland Area Drug and Alcohol Commission. Ryan?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the Discovery House addendum, we're looking to add our regular outpatient rates onto that contract. Their other rates are bundled, so it's a bundle between their counseling sessions and the methadone doses, and we're looking to add the outpatient rates onto that. They're having a person who is going off of methadone and they just want the counseling, and we didn't have that on before. Any questions for that? No. Second is the $300 donation from Big Spring Area Community Chest. They've donated to us in the past. We generally use that for prevention or other services that are provided in the Newfield area.
Any questions? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Agenda item D, Sue Carball is here to discuss the 2 agreements for MHIDD. Sue?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. We have 2 amendments here for this fiscal year, 18-19. The first one is PI Counseling. It's a mental health contract. It's an increase of $5,215 due to additional services being provided in a prison, in both prisons, Cumberland and Perry County. And the Devereaux Foundation addendum is an intellectual developmental disabilities contract, and it's an increase of $1,688 due to additional services that they are providing.
Any questions for Sue? Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
All right, agenda item E, we have Claudia Gardner who's joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the PEMA E-grant, and she will also be discussing agenda item 7 regarding a donation for the 2019 Sarah Summit and the capital project request that they have on for public safety regarding the audio log operating system upgrade. Claudia?
Good morning, everyone. Public Safety is asking your approval to apply for the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant, known as HMEP, in the amount of $10,000. This is a federally funded reimbursable grant through PEMA that requires a 20% match from the county. The grant has a performance period of October 1, 2019 through September 30 of 2022. In the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, Congress recognized the risk to communities posed by the transportation of hazardous materials and the required emergency response plans developed by the counties and their local emergency planning committees to identify the routes likely to be used for the transportation of these commodities on the list of extremely hazardous substances and plan accordingly. One way to approach this requirement for the county is to address all the hazardous materials being transported through a commodity flow study. The study is an assessment of the types and volumes of materials moving through the county to the communities. For some communities, especially those in rural areas, the transportation may pose the only hazardous materials risk. However, we need to plan accordingly. In light of the number of accidents that occur on a regular basis, mostly through Interstate 81, we need to be conscious of this and plan. So the goal of the commodity flow study, of course, is to gather this information and prepare, prevent, and enable our responses to be better, our equipment to be better, our better training, and all of that. The last commodity flow study that was conducted for Cumberland County was 2009. So we all know and talk about how much the county has changed in the last 10 years. So our hazardous materials team needs to adjust to those changes as well. We did get a budgetary quote from a vendor. The cost for this service is $13,050, which is why we'd like to apply for this grant. The maximum allowed for this type of study under the grant is $10,000 with a 20% match. So we would like to apply for the grant in $10,000 to be done in 2020. And the remaining amount of that $13,000 we can budget for in our operating expenses for calendar year 20.
Any questions for Claudia?
Any questions?
I do have one or two. Claudia, you mentioned the last we had done this was 2009. So that's a 10-year interval. Is that the standard? Is that what it normally would be?
Yeah, no, actually, it should be done every 5 years.
Okay.
We had delayed the county doing one because Piedmont had stated that they were going to conduct one statewide.
Yeah.
However, they have just announced this year that the one that they are going to do is not going to completely meet our needs as a county and our requirements. So we need to do one here locally for just the county.
Yeah, even 5 years. I mean, I'm no expert on this, obviously. Is that sufficient for a county that's growing as fast as we are? It sounds pretty important.
Yeah, it is pretty important, and I can't speak to that timeline. I can certainly reach out to the folks that are responsible for the planning and the hazardous materials team and get some more feedback for you. I can just tell you that the requirement is every 5, and we had been granted a leeway of not doing it 5 years ago because PMO was going to do one statewide.
Right, okay.
Like I said, now they're not doing it, so.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just got a couple follow-ups, Claudia. So, you said the total study cost is estimated at $15,000, is that what you said?
No, 13.
No, it's
Oh,
$13,050.
$13,050. So,
Right.
the last
So
study.
it's a 20% match.
Okay. The grant is for $10,000. So what does
The
the
maximum allowed for that study is $10,000.
Okay. Well, so we would be essentially, we're submitting a request for a grant, or we already, that's what this is?
We're requesting for a grant, yes, to cover the study. And the maximum we would be allowed to have would be $10,000. So the other $3,050 would come out of our operating budget.
Okay. 10 years ago, when the last study was done, did we receive a grant for that as well? Do you know?
We did, yes. It was the same thing. It was an 80-20 match grant, and that cost, I believe, was $7,800 at that time.
Okay. And who conducted the study at that time?
The last one was Cachordy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Cachordy Associates, they did the last one. And we'll obviously reach out to them again, given that they had done the previous one. But there's also, in 10 years, there's a lot more agencies that can conduct the study. So we're going to do our due diligence and check their history and check who all the agencies have performed studies for throughout the state.
Okay, so there will be an RFP for it, is what you're saying, right?
No, there shouldn't be an RFP, I don't think so, because it's a professional service. Am I right, Keith, that we can do that under professional service?
Right, right, and I assume the format of whatever study they're doing is gonna be uniform among everyone you ask to submit.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And one final question. Could we get a copy of the study that was done 10 years ago? I'm curious as to the details and how they gather the information that's necessary. And this talks also about allowing planners and emergency responders to be more aware, how this is communicated with first responders is something I'm curious about as well. So.
Sure, absolutely. In a nutshell, what they do is they pick out some high traffic areas throughout the county, 10 to 15 traffic control points, if I recall correctly. And then they actually physically sit at those intersections and they'll count the hazardous materials coming through because they all have to have placards on their vehicles.
Okay.
On the tractor trailers. So they'll actually count that, they'll gather that data, and they'll come up with,
Okay, so the study is kind of like performed as just observation then of vehicles traveling through the county?
Yeah, just the collecting of data, yes, and then forecasting where potential crashes could occur and how many residents could be affected by, let's say there's a crash on the interstate at
Okay.
the High Street exit, and how many schools are in that area, how many businesses, how many people and industries this is truly affect if there is a massive accident there.
Okay. All right. Well, if it's handy, if I could see a copy of the study that was done 10 years ago, I appreciate it.
Sure, yeah, we can email to all three of you and Sandy as well.
One other thing on this, Claudia. I seem to recall from when it was done before, what is the monitoring for hazardous materials moving in via rail? Because the reason I ask you is,
That's also,
what's that?
that's also included. They'll travel, they'll examine the highway, the pipeline, and railway.
Okay, I was gonna say, in 10 years, we've had a massive shift, both in terms of the number of storage facilities here and the amount of freight that's now moving through rail, including through our county. So I'm sure there are professionals, but the methodology needs to obviously be robust. And I'm gonna come back to this question regarding the frequency of it, because we're still growing. Is the grant only available to us on a 5-year basis, or during this period where we're in this high growth phase, could we opt to do it every 2 years or 3 years and still have federal support for it?
Yeah, the grant is a 3-year performance period, so I would have to check how often we would be eligible under that grant funding.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not
that
sure,
would-
I have to check with FEMA.
That's fine, that would be worth knowing, I think, so, just as an option. Thank you.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting too that you just mentioned also pipelines, right? So the assessment's
Yes, pipelines.
the assessment would include an update with respect to the natural gas pipeline that's running through our county?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There would be, every county has to do this, but yet from what I'm understanding, what FEMA will do will be statewide and collecting all that information as well, so there'll be a good check and balance system there too.
Any more questions on this?
No, I think Gary asked a very good one though, is relative to the frequency of this, because our county is changing on an annual basis, so and I think it's important, especially not just for our preparedness, but also for public awareness as well.
Okay, Claudia, do you want to move on to agenda item 7?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so our Sarah Summit in October, as we talked about at your last meeting, we're seeking sponsorships at levels of platinum, gold, and silver, 2,000, 1,000, and 500, and bronze at 250 respectively. And we are happy to report Tucky Restoration of Carlisle would like to submit a sponsorship in the amount of $515 at a silver sponsor level for the Sarah Summit in October.
Any questions on that, Commissioners? Okay, Claudia, now we're going to jump down to the capital projects, and you can discuss the audio log operating system upgrade.
Last one. So we're seeking your approval for moving forward with a capital project in the amount of $16,750.80. This is to upgrade our audio log recorder operating system on the server. This is the system that records the phone and radio transmissions within the communication center. Currently, they are operating on Microsoft operating system that will be end of life effective January 2020, forcing us to either upgrade the system or replace the recorder. At the time when we formulated the 2019 budget, we weren't sure which option would be the best, so we had budgeted $200,000 for a complete replacement. Through research and discussion though with our team and the IMTO team and of course the capital project review committee, it was decided that the best solution at this time is to upgrade the existing recorder server operating system. This will extend the life of the recorder sufficiently to get us to the point when we transition to the P25 radio system, at which time a replacement will be absolutely necessary. So this is an eligible expense under the 911 uniform funding, and the vendors are on the state contract for this. And like I said, we had budgeted $200,000, and the actual expense we're estimating to be $16,750.80.
Any questions regarding that, commissioners? Thank you very much, Claudia.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Okay, now we'll move down to agenda item 9, and call Holly Sherman to discuss the Cumberland County authorized signers for the county deferred compensation. And then she'll follow that with agenda item 10, the Cumberland amendment to the 457 plan to facilitate transfer from Val. Holly?
Good morning. The Cumberland County authorized signers for the county's deferred compensation document that establishes the Board of Commissioners as authorized signers for all things plan related, other than the day-to-day participant distributions, which are signed by myself and the benefits and risk manager.
Any questions?
And then the amendment to the 457 plan to facilitate transfer from Valley. It was discovered in the transfer process that the Valley contract was written a little bit differently than the nationwide, and as it stands right now, the ability to transfer or terminate plan stand at the participant level, but we do have the ability to amend that to put that back at the plan level. So this amendment is establishing that to go to the plan level, so the county, as the plan sponsor, being able to direct that versus the individual participants. And this would be essential moving forward in our transition to the ICMA-RC contract. I wanted to note that the document before you, I am waiting to get some information on the amendment as to when our initial contract with Valid was established, and I will have the final version for you on Monday.
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you, Molly. Okay, next we're going to move on to discussion of capital project requests, and I'll go with Melissa Smith, who's joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the capital project request for CNRC. Melissa?
Good morning. We are seeking approval for the purchase of 10 beds. These beds are getting to the end of their lifespan. Some of the models that we're using have parts that no longer are available to replace. The new beds that we want to get have purchased some, and they have the feature that can make the bed wider simply by repositioning the built-in sliding sides of the frames. It'll make it easier to accommodate the patients, the residents, for their needs. We have a quote for 10 beds for a basic price of $17,320. We're able to get 10 as a time because the rent shipping available to us until June.
Any questions, commissioners?
What's the project cost we have is 18,600.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The document we have indicates the project cost is $18,600,
10 taxes.
rounding off.
Sorry.
You're saying the cost is 17,300.
And plus tax, I'm sorry. So it is about 55 total.
I just had one question, Ms. Melissa, and that is, you said that we had to replace 4 patient lifts last month, totaling $21,400, which came out of the budget that we had for the purchase of new beds. Did we
Yes.
not? So I'm assuming the replacement of 4 patient lifts was not budgeted, is that right?
No, it was not.
Okay.
We had some concerns with the lifts in house, and we wanted to replace those with the incident that happened the prior month before that. Not here, not in Claremont, in another facility.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
No.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call Melissa Cavanelli to discuss capital project request for the court regarding courtroom 5 furniture. Melissa?
We are requesting to replace all of the freestanding chairs in courtroom 5, in the courtroom as well as in the jury deliberation room. The current freestanding chairs are original to when the courtroom was built in 1998. So they were 20 years old. Just one wearing out.
Any questions for Melissa? Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Mark Adams to request the capital project request for IMTO regarding county badge system. Mark?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a multi-department initiative to replace the current county badging system. The current one is tied directly to the security system of the sheriff's office. We've that system is going away. We're obviously have gone through the process of replacing the security system. So badging system now goes away and we need to replace that. HR, sheriff, and the nursing home have to need print badges. We're going with a vendor that currently we've used in the past, and we also have it over at public safety. So the goal is to get us all in the same system, and then in the event we need to share resources or share printers or do that kind of thing, we can kind of help each other out, whether there's certain projects or not. The overall 5-year cost is $26,920. Again, that's 5 years. The first year, about $10,230 is general fund, and the nursing home is just under $8,000 for the first year. After that, it's supplies and maintenance costs, relatively inexpensive.
Any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. Can we move on to agenda item 12, and I'll call Commissioner Herzler to discuss the recommendation for reappointment to the Housing Authority Board. Commissioner Herzler?
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, that Penny is a regular attendee at our Housing Authority Board meetings, and she's a more recent appointment, so I'll be requesting, she's agreeable to serve another term, requesting that she be reappointed.
Thank you, Commissioner Herzler. Next, we'll move on to the Commissioner's liaison reports, and we begin with Commissioner DiPolito.
Thanks, Sandy. Just have one. Last week I had the pleasure to attend an event held by the Penn State Extension. It was actually for 4-H folks. And they had young people from the age of 8 to 18 give presentations. And they were judged based on a variety of things. And I saw State Rep Barb Gleim and some others were there as judges, and I have to tell you, this covered kids in the county of Dauphin, Cumberland, and Perry. And the competition was intense but friendly, and I have to say all the kids were great in their presentations. I'm really proud to see that we have young people in 4-H doing a lot of things and learning a lot of things and presenting themselves very well. So that's all I have this time around, Sandy.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner
You're welcome.
DiPolito. Commissioner Herzler.
Okay, a few things. The Housing Redevelopment Authority boards met Thursday, April 18th. Nova Craddock and Company, the authority's independent auditor, presented their audits of both the Housing Authority and the Redevelopment Authority for the fiscal years ended June 30, 2018 and June 30, 2017. There were clean opinions with both audits, unmodified, which is the best there could be. No deficiencies identified regarding internal controls. On the Housing Authority side, they tested our Housing Choice Voucher Program, which, as we were told, is one of the toughest programs to operate. According to the auditor, 40 to 50% of the housing authorities and housing choice voucher programs across the nation have problems. There were no findings in ours. They tested the CDBG program on the redevelopment side. The auditors found processes are strong, no issues or findings, good liquidity. And I've got a copy of both audits if either one of my commissioner colleagues would like to take a look at it at some point. On the affordable housing front, meanwhile, the authority continues to work on the development of a new 5-year consolidated plan. Hiring is underway to fill a number of vacancies, including the community development director position most recently held by Kate Molinaro. As of April, there were 1,233 families in Cumberland County receiving housing choice voucher assistance toward the payment of their rents. And we've got a waiting list of roughly 800 from within the county. One item that was discussed, it would seem that needs to be addressed at the federal level, is the federal government's ongoing failure to recognize state laws that have permitted medical marijuana. The way it stands right now is that federal housing choice vouchers are terminated for any persons found to be legally using medical marijuana in Pennsylvania and a majority of the states that have legalized marijuana for medical purposes. That's because marijuana, in any form and for any use, remains illegal under the Federal Controlled Substances Act. The Cumberland County Conservation District Board met last Tuesday morning, April 23rd. The district's annual tree sale, as Carl mentioned, occurred last Thursday and Friday. As I understand, as Carl mentioned here this morning, there were 300 customers this year, 8,000 seedlings that were sold, an increase of about 1,000 over last year. And as I mentioned previously, to date, since the inception of this program, 500,000 trees have been purchased and planted in Cumberland County as a result of the tree seedling program operated by the Conservation District. A tree has been planted at the district's Allen Road headquarters in memory of Wilbur Wolf, and a memorial sign has been ordered with the intention of holding a dedication ceremony that I expect all of us will be invited to later this month. Also, the district board has accepted a recommendation to designate one of the environmental college scholarships awarded to eligible students each year as the Wilbur E. Wolf Jr. Memorial Scholarship in honor of Wilbur's nearly 3 decades of service to the Cumberland County Conservation District's Board of Directors. As we just proclaimed, May 5 through the 11th is Conservation District Week in Cumberland County and across Pennsylvania in recognition of the work performed by our state's 66 conservation districts in protecting and preserving our water and natural resources. 145 students from all of our county's school districts are expected to participate in the district's annual Environment-thon that is scheduled to take place Tuesday, May 7 at Kings Gap. I'm told that this is the largest student participation in the Environment-thon since that started. In the meantime, the Conservation District Board approved the nomination of South Mountain Partnership as recipient of the 2019 Conservation Organization of the Year Award and nominated JVH Excavating of Lemoyne to receive the 2019 Clean Water Award. The Harrisburg Area Transportation Study Coordinating Committee met last Friday morning. On hand were Michelle Crowley, the Executive Director of the Carlisle Chamber of Commerce, and Crystal Clinton, the Chair of the Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation, who detailed their support of efforts by our transportation partners in addressing the dire need for capacity expansion and interchange improvements on Interstate 81 throughout our county and in the Carlisle area in particular. As underscored by Mike Kaiser, PennDOT District 8 Executive Director, and myself for undoubtedly the umpteenth time, the federal government needs to step up to the plate and provide the resources necessary since Much of the increase in traffic and congestion that we're experiencing on Interstate 81 is the result of interstate commerce. The good news is maybe some of you saw it, but there may be at least a glimmer of hope, because there was a meeting at the White House this week where there was talk about a true $2 trillion national infrastructure improvement plan. Of course, it remains to be seen if this latest talk finally results in long overdue action. It's been more than 25 years since the federal government increased resources for highway improvements throughout the nation. And in other reports from the meeting, Route 114 in Cumberland County will be resurfaced to the tune of $2 million this year. The $7 million Erford Road Bridge Replacement Project is expected to be completed this fall. And the $3.5 million Creekview Road and 581 Interchange Project in Hampton Township with traffic signalization is expected to be completed by November. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Pittsburgh. Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, a few things on the planning side. I have an update from Kirk. He mentions that the new floodplain maps that we were expecting last week, I believe, are now delayed until May 14. We'll be hearing something about that. FEMA had some delays, so they didn't really go into detail to say approval delays. So now May 14 is the date that we should be getting those maps. Also, planning just launched their web application that shows all of the subdivision and land development plans in the county on mapping, and has a brief summary of what that development is. We got an overview of that at the last planning commission meeting. That's a starting point. They're going to build out that application as time goes on, more detail as well, and perhaps even eventually allow submission, direct submission electronically of plans. It also has search capabilities, and Kirk wanted me to be sure to mention it's another example of the excellent work our GIS department does, as we saw yesterday from their presentation. So he wants to be sure we understand how pleased they are to have the support from the planning department, from our GIS folks who, as I mentioned, do a great job. So, also, he mentioned that there's been a surge in subdivision and land development plans in March and April. That's fairly standard. They had 24 plans in March and 21 in April review. That's the highest monthly total they've had in several years, though. So, lots of activity going on in the fastest growing county, Pennsylvania.
The past decade.
Past decade. That's kind of inside also, Justin mentioned to me regarding recycling that they have the office trailer and scale moved down there, because we have a paving project's going to be underway soon. I don't know the exact date on that, but they've got everything taken care of. He gave me some of the new data for 2019. I do think this is, I don't think I gave you April's last meeting. They were at 2,828 pounds per day. That's up from 2,412 the prior month, and 1,876 in February, which was the low one. So that's 2,828. Again, another impressive number. Continues to validate the need for the services provided. Yard waste program busy this time of year, again, a normal thing. They've been training the new crew at Carlisle Borough on the wood grinder. They've been 4 pieces of equipment in the past week, so that's time-intensive stuff, but we're sticking with it. So, okay, just the last item is in regards, of course, to I'll find it here, but Friday, of course, is the kickoff event for Mental Health Awareness Month, and we, of course, have the mental health walk that begins at the Little Toward Park at 10 a.m. Samantha, do you know what the target time is? Because it's going to end up here, so 11 a.m. Anybody can be there. I know some folks can't be there. We'll be presenting the proclamation. They already have a bunch of speakers, so they kind of dropped it. They don't need to hear it from me again this year. So, I call But,
Well, you can tell them I'm not gonna be there.
that saves us lots of time.
Absolutely.
But, so
No,
we'll
please,
do the-
please extend my regrets, and then, you know, one of the commissioners, or both of them, all of the commissioners should, you know, should have an opportunity to speak, I would think.
I think the proclamation presentation will be, and then a few comments with that would be more than sufficient. It sounds like they have quite a bill of folks. So, so that'll be good. We're always happy to attend that when we can. So we'll send them regrets, Jim, as you requested. So this is the 13th year they've done this too. So, I'm sorry, it begins at 11. Okay, and it concludes with a picnic back at the Tort. So we need to double check the time for up here.
It's 11.
For up here?
Yeah, the walk starts at 10:30. They'll be here at 11. And
Okay.
11 to 11:30 for the rally at the historic courthouse. And then after 11:30,
Yeah.
they will have the picnic back.
Back at the Tort.
At
Okay,
the
just, I'll have to ask Sue just to absolutely confirm it, because this says the event begins at 10, the walk begins at 11.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I've been going on, so your information's helpful, I'll confirm it for anybody who wants that.
Okay.
And of course, they're asking for members of the advisory board to be there. I'm sure we'll have good representation, as we typically do. Let's see, also, very quickly, the Suicide Prevention Task Force continues to be very active, and they had another train-the-trainer session Tuesday, April 16th. They had 24 folks there, including our own HR, some of our HR people as well. So we're getting that word out and getting the proper training methodologies out there for interventions as we want to address this uptick in suicide in general that we've seen in recent years. So that effort continues. Let's see. Yeah, they've been doing the training now for 2 years, so and we'll continue to get updates on how they're doing with that. The only other item, I think, there was nothing on the IDD side. Everything Sue gave me was things that she either talked about here on the budget hearing or that I've brought up in the past. They continue to, the family group continues to engage with our area legislators regarding this question of the allocation of waivers. This has been an ongoing issue. It's going to continue to be an ongoing issue. So as you may recall, Sue mentioned that our delegation, members of our delegation said they are going to study it more, do some more due diligence, and see where they might be able to exert some pressure. I have to be honest, no offense intended to anybody, but that's been like hitting our head against a brick wall for years now. So, but we're going to continue that effort, and we'll have an update when they get some feedback from the delegation as well on that. So, as Sue mentioned before, we have we're the fastest growing county in the last 10 years. And so obviously our mental health population continues to grow with that in our need for services, but we are placed second to last in the distribution of waivers by the state formula. So, and that has just been an ongoing struggle, and will continue to be as that gap just widens between what our need is and what's available. So
That's because of the same way our school districts end up.
Yes.
Get, you know, not necessarily a fair share because of the whole, all this provisions.
Whole lot of provisions, right.
Yeah.
Everybody
And
continues to get
the answer is not necessarily to lower all those folks but the need for additional resources, you know. But
I would say it's reasonable to expect that with our population growing and the demand growing, that there needs to be additional resources. And that apparently has been the hang up, is the emphasis remains in a flat funding environment on the distribution of those funds, and that system is locked by the formula. So without new funding coming in, we're going to continue to have a shortfall here. So anyhow, those efforts are going to continue. I'll keep you updated on any progress there. We may want to whenever we have the opportunity, put a good word in on the cause with our delegation as well, to let them know that we're aware of it and our community feels the pain of that. So just a reminder on that. I think that's going to cover it for what I have today. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberger. I would like to report that an executive session was held on the following day, April 24th, 2019, business